What's going on, y'all? What we got going on here? Beautiful. How's everybody doing today? I've never gone live before. Figured I'd try it out here. Maybe talk. Woo! I dropped you guys. Figured we talk about arm wrestling. Oops, sorry. First time. Give me a second here. Just wanted to get this out there for you guys. Talk about arm wrestling a little bit. I have a lot of stuff. I've been wanting to a lot of ideas and things that I like to share with you guys. So yeah, here we are. Let's talk about some stuff. Some stuff I've been meaning to cover with you guys. Elo, thanks for checking in. What's up, bud? When are you gonna come back to practice? Ooh, there it goes. Sorry, had to get it all situated. Yeah, I got monetized recently on the YouTube thing, and it gave me the option to go live. I figured probably should at some point. Hopefully, you've been training, Eric, during this quarantine stuff, man. It's rough. Training's been really rough for me, for sure. What's going on, Carlo? I think Coolburn. That's Carlo, right? 2 people watching. I was just gonna go over some stuff, some training stuff people have been asking me about, and yeah, super bored. I'm super bored, man. I don't have. Oh yeah, my video games are out too, so I'm just like sitting here. I should go live more often. You guys get a chance to share this on wherever. Let's see if we can get some people in here. Be fun. I want to talk about the phases of arm wrestling, people's careers. I want to go over that with some people, because I've been telling a lot of people that I would make that video. So, some pronation work. Yeah, I got my stuff in the bedroom. I got some of my pronation handles and whatnot. Just watched Larry's video. It's our match. Nice, man. Thanks. That was super random. The Larry thing was like, well, I mean, originally it was really random because it was this last one of the video everybody's watching of me beating Larry. That was recent, but a year ago, I was at the LA Fit Expo with Alex from Arm Wrestling TV, and we saw Larry Wheels, and Larry was super popular at that time too. And I told Alex, I said, hey, it would be so awesome as if we went over there and we got Larry Wheels to arm wrestle with us. And so we sat there for like an hour and a half waiting, and we had a mutual friend that knew Larry, Ray Cote, was talking to Larry earlier that day, so we kind of had someone that had talked to him, and Alex's YouTube channel was big enough where they were like, oh, that's a good idea. So Larry and the guy that films him kind of were like with it, and so they took Larry over to the arm wrestling table after his strongman competition, and I got on the table with Larry. I think I was first, and then Alex got on there, and then Alex's wife, Alex, got on the table with Larry, and then the world's strongest grip guy, he's Russian, I don't know his name, he got on the table with Larry, and that shit was scary, but there's no video of that, I don't think. He was like trying to break Larry's arm. It was a really scary moment. But anyway, that's what led up to this next one, which is the video everybody else is watching right now, because since me and Alex were beating up on Larry and his wife, the next year he came over to the Fitness Expo and he wanted to find us, and he wanted to have a match. So that's kind of how that panned out. He came over there looking to arm wrestle Alex, and then wanted to call me out for a match because I was there. But what he didn't know was I was completely fresh at the LA Fit Expo because I was watching the tournament because I was getting ready for the Arnold's, which was like a month later or something like that. So I wasn't going to risk hurting myself at the LA Fit Expo. So I was there watching, and and he called me out, and I told him not to. I told him he didn't want to do it on the main stage. Like the moment you guys see Bill Collins walk over and say, you guys want to do this on the main stage, the promoter, you can see me like kind of start saying stuff to Larry, and I'm telling him like, Larry, let's not do it on the main stage. And he wanted to go do it on the main stage because he wanted everybody to see it. So, I knew it was going to happen though, and I was right. So, anyway, yeah. So there's that story, and then the rest of it, I guess, is history. But But yeah, so I kind of want to go over the phases thing of arm wrestling, people's arm wrestling careers. If you guys have any questions or something while I'm talking, oh, we'll see how long this live thing will go, and if people are tuning in, or if it's interesting for anyone, or I don't know. I don't know how this thing works really. But yeah, so also Wes Bjornson. If anybody has Wes on Facebook or Messenger, shoot him a link to this. He asked me to, but I don't know how to do it while I'm streaming, how to send him a link. My computer's in the other room. I'm just using my phone, so hopefully you guys can hear me. Basically, though, I'm going to go over, first I'm going to go over what kind of training methods I'm working with right now, and then why I think that's like the best way to train. And then we'll go over the different phases and why people should consider these types of lifts, in my opinion, at what period in time or like what part of their career they should be considering this type of lifting and training methods, right? Because I think that's one big thing that a lot of like top people or people that are influencing others or training other people, I think it's one thing they forget a lot of times, including really famous people like Devin and all these top guys when they're giving out their tips. And it's not that their information isn't amazing information. It is. But rarely do you hear people talk about when you should do certain types of training. And that's something I'm really big on, especially, running a team or whatever. I've been around from people starting brand new with no strength training background up to people walking in off the streets and being like ridiculously strong. So it's really important, and something I've noticed big time over the years is how important it is to do certain things at certain times. And because it's like your career, to build a solid foundation and to slowly build a career, I think it's a really big deal. I think it's really important. I think that you shouldn't rush it. So I don't know. I think a lot of guys get onto arm wrestling and immediately want to do exactly everything Devin says, or John Brzenk says arm wrestle all the time, or so and so never arm wrestles and only lifts weights, and they try to follow all this stuff, but not really understanding like the reason why and how a lot of people's careers have changed over time. That's where they ended up, right? So Devin also, a lot of times he'll reference like, oh yeah, I used to be heavy into grip, or I used to be heavy into side pressure training, or I used to be this and that, right? And there's a reason that he's at where he's at. All those things he did beforehand led him to the point where he's at now, a lot of times, right? So for a new beginner to jump right into what Devin's doing doesn't really make a lot of sense, because they're not built up for that. They're not at the point in their career, or their body's not built up to the level of where they should just be focusing on what Devin focuses on, And so it's not that the information he's giving, what's up, ET? It's not that the information that they're giving isn't fantastic if you're ready for that information and ready to apply it, but it's just like most people aren't, right? 90% of the people that are watching these YouTube videos aren't ready to be just focusing on like little 1-inch movements and stuff like that. They have so much to learn, and I think they have such a foundation they still need to build as far as like training and getting stronger. I don't see the point in focusing on that. So we'll talk about that a little bit, the phases and what you should focus on in different parts of your career. For a lot of you guys, anybody that follows me that's watching this knows that I was getting coached by Ingen Terzi for a while, and he really opened my eyes to a lot of stuff. But more than anything, I realized how much I agree with Ingen on his philosophies of training. Like I said, I've gone to all these seminars, and everybody has a different philosophy of training. So I've been to a Rustam Babayev seminar. I've been to Dmitry Trubin seminar. There's the Devin Larratt ones, Travis Bajan, Igor Mazurenko. Pick the brains of everybody. And it's just a lot of stuff that they say makes sense, but it's not always exactly stuff that I would subscribe to. I would try to in the past. I would go home and I would be like, well, Travis Bajan said I need to squeeze this towel and keep my hand here and I'll become the best. Or John Brzenk says I just need to arm wrestle with strong people and then I'll become the best. And so I different periods in time, I focus on those things that they were talking about. But and I've definitely grown a lot. I've learned a ton from it. But I mean, in the end, man, the best thing I realized was that throughout my whole career, all these things I did led me to a certain point, right? And I think that's the same for everybody. So when you're first starting, we're going to assume that you're just a random dude that has not ever done anything as far as strength training. You are just an office guy, played video games his whole life like me, and now you just want to start training for a strength sport, Okay, we have a lot of work to do, right? You have no foundation in strength. Now, a lot of people don't. A lot of people come in and they've been lifting weights for 20 years. But we're going to assume that in this example, you're not. This is a good format, Derek. This is how you should answer the questions with your podcast. Yeah, but I do my podcast at really random times, so I don't know if it would work out that way. You know, I don't getting everybody on. Anyway, so okay, I'm gonna assume that you, like, whoever I'm talking about is just a blank slate, right? A clean slate, and doesn't have a big weightlifting background. And not that there's not information for the people that do have a weightlifting background, but we'll get to you. We're not there yet, right? So when you first start, I would suggest building a foundation of strength. Something along the lines of, if you don't have access to a team, realistically, I tell everybody to arm wrestle all the time. If you are a new guy off the streets, this is phase 1, right? You're a brand new guy off the streets. I recommend arm wrestling as much as you can possibly arm wrestle, meaning as much as your body can handle, and hopefully you have a team or people available to arm wrestle with you. So as much as you can possibly on the table, as much as you can physically handle without crying, that's how much I recommend arm wrestling when you first begin, right? Now, there's a lot of things that can waver within that. I mean, if you're 60 years old and overweight and your diet shit and you never sleep, then it's gonna be really hard for you to arm wrestle heavy like that for a lot, right? And so then you need to focus more on rehab so that way you can get back on the table. So if the world is perfect, then I would tell a brand new guy to not focus on any kind of weight training yet, and focus all on table time. Now, that's not realistic, right? There's almost nobody that I know that has access to a team every day of the week. That's just not realistic. So I would say that for the newer guys that come in, we have a guy that's actually in the chat room right now named ETN, and he's been arm wrestling twice a week since he started over a year ago, and he's made huge gains. What's going on, Scott? How you doing, man? And so he's been focusing on table time, because when you first start the arm wrestling journey, then table time is going to provide everything you need. You don't need to be slamming the gym when you first start. Now, like I said, a lot of people don't have access to a team or whatever, so they have to supplement their table time with gym time. Now, that's not choice. That's not like the optimal thing at all, in my opinion. Like I said, you should be getting all table time. But if you only have access to like once a week, like that's the most you can arm wrestle, or once every other week or whatever, and you're getting as much table time as you can, but you're healing up and you're bored and you're like, I want to do more than this, then I would recommend working on compound movements. I'm a fan of, at this point, big compound movements, bench press, overhead press, deadlift, even squatting, at this stage, squatting. Just because we want to build a nice foundation of strength so that way we can build on it later on in our career, right? So becoming strong in all areas. What's your occupation? Top Dog 99. I'm a supervisor at UPS throughout the week, and then I'm also a bouncer at a nightclub on the weekends usually. So when what was I getting to? Oh yeah, so at the beginning we want to build a foundation of strength when you first start, if you have no weightlifting background, right? So like, do those general lifts, do those powerlifting lifts, or big compound movements where you're going to incorporate a lot of different muscles in the movement, right? Because it's going to build a really good foundation for us to build all these little isolated muscles on top of that later on. Because this sport is going to get super sport specific eventually. It's inevitable. It's inevitable that as you train for arm wrestling, eventually you're going to start doing some crazy shit where you're working just your pinky finger, or just, your riser, your ability to, your radial deviation and all that stuff, right? So we'll get there, but I think when you first start, that's not the biggest thing you need to focus on. We have to build a base, right? So as much table time as you can. When you can't get table time, I would focus on compound movements, and then starting to get used to how to work your wrist in all the different movements, right? So for arm wrestling, your wrist, generally I break it down into 6 movements. 6? Yeah. So there's flexion or cupping, 1. There's extension, right? Wrist extension, so the reverse curls, 2. There is sinking, wrist down, 3. There's rising, wrist up, 4. Then there's pronation, turning your wrist over, and then there's supination, turning your wrist under, right? So that's 6 different lifts. I was really intrigued by the last video you had about wrist pronation and body pronation. It was just a podcast. Any way to go into more detail? Yeah, the grip. So sorry guys, the question makes. Oh wait, what do you say? Oh, crap. um, Sorry guys, I'm reading right now. So. Oh, sorry. Hey Wes, thanks for endorsing all that stuff. Yeah, I'll get into the pronation thing right now. Promise. Okay, so hey guys, is background noise too loud? I have my door open. I can close it. I like the light and. But so those are the 6 lifts, right? I like to do 7 though. I break it up into my cupping. When I have my flexion, I focus on bottom 2 finger cupping and top 2 fingers cupping, right? I don't do them together. Well, I mean, like if I'm bored or if I'm just trying to rush through a workout, I'll do it together. But in general, I always break it up. Top 2 fingers cupping and focusing on the top part of your hand while I'm cupping. So kind of hard to show. And then bottom 2 fingers. I mean, just change them up because I've always tried to train my bottom 2 fingers separately than my top 2 because everybody comes into the sport with about 80% of your strength in your top 2 fingers and 20% in your bottom 2 fingers, and you kind of got to work a lot at that to even up your grip, right? And so I have a pretty strong grip at this point. I can close a number 3 gripper. So we're gonna do compound movements at the beginning. This is assuming you have to go in the gym. Once again, I'd rather have you just be in the arm wrestling table 7 times a week. But if that's not possible, we have to go to the gym. Compound movements, and then start getting affiliated with some of the wrist movements. Now, going insanely heavy doesn't make any sense. We'd be squeezing steering wheels. Oh, what's up, Roger? So I would say that you don't need to go insanely heavy. You need to get your wrists affiliated with the movement. When you first start training, your wrists are going to be weak. So to go super heavy in a movement on these really small muscles doesn't make a lot of sense when you first start because the odds of you hurt yourself are super high, right? So light, just getting used to the motions while doing compound movements and focusing on arm wrestling. The big gains you're going to be making when you start arm wrestling at the beginning of your career is going to be on the table. Because the table is going to provide, at the beginning, the table will provide everything you need. It'll provide how to be safe, right? You're going to go in there on the arm wrestling table, you're going to learn how to not break your arm. You're going to learn how to arm wrestle in general, the ABCs of arm wrestling 101. What is a hook, top roll, press? What is inside arm wrestling, outside arm wrestling? These are things you're going to learn. Your joints are going to start getting tore down and built up from the table time. That there's no way I've found in 10 years to replicate the pressure you put on your elbows as you can on the table. There's some ways I've found that you can kind of hit your elbows off the table, but nothing's as well as table time, right? So you're going to learn how to be safe, you're going to learn how to arm wrestle, you're going to start working on your joints, which becomes a really big deal later on. And then you're also going to be making muscle gains on the table in your first beginning year because, like I said, we're starting with a clean slate of no muscle at all, right? So you're going to be making huge gains on the table. Everything you need will be provided on the table. And if you have a really awesome training group, a really strong training group like John Berzink did, he would train with some amazing arm wrestlers, then that table time can take you really far into your career, which is why he promotes table time, right? He had his brother, he had a bunch of the guys in Utah, he had like Bob Brown, he had Captain Rebar, what's his name? Kevin Bongard. He had Jordan Sill at one point. Todd Hutchings moved out there. So John's always had amazing people to train with, top-notch guys. And when he would go to his practice, he would treat his practice like a gym session. So he would go do sets and reps and stuff like that, right? Anyway, we'll get that. That's a whole separate subject. But yeah, so when you're starting off, compound movements, light wrist movements, and then focusing everything else on rehab and getting back on the table. Right, that's phase 1. Now the point of this is to get over your rookie gains or your rookie pains, right? That last like a year where your elbow's screaming after every practice. We want to get that done, right? We want to start putting work in to get through that ASAP. That can last depending on ETN. The call is good. I think there's a way your live videos can be saved as radio videos after you're done. So go live for the podcast. Yeah, maybe there's some complications with that, but maybe ET. I'll think about it. What's my train of thought on this? Oh yeah, so we want to turn your oh, what's up, Mike? Mega Mike in the chat. We want to turn your arms into arm wrestling arms, and we want to get your joints and your tendons and your nerves to start getting over the rookie pains, which take, depending on your age and your fitness levels and your diet and your hydration levels and your rest, That can go anywhere from, I've heard some people say 6 months and they're okay, up to a year and a half and they're dying. Now that all depends on how much work you put in. If you only arm wrestle once a month, then these pains are going to last a long time because you're not putting in the work, right, to get your joints and everything ready. A big reason why Devin Larratt and those guys can arm wrestle so much, their joints are so, right, so the big pain you get is an inflammation on your ulnar nerve. That's the most common one, right? It's like tennis elbow or golfer's elbow. I forget which one. They're like separate, but it's the same thing. The inflammation of your nerves, right, is what it is. Well, the more your arm and your body becomes used to applying this kind of arm wrestling pressure, the more your elbows and everything will get calcified, your joints will get thicker, and you'll get so much stronger that you won't be putting your arm through so much stress, and those nerves won't become as inflamed, right? So the less you have to try when you're arm wrestling, the less those nerves get inflamed. And so it's not that Devin isn't trying, and it's not that he doesn't have nerves. It's that he's so strong and his elbows are so weathered that it doesn't inflame his nerves, what he's doing, right? That's why he doesn't die because of it. Because you better be someone amazing to really get his arms to a certain level. Derek, I need a demonstration of low hand top rolling. When I try to top roll the straps, I get pulled in. I've also got to stop posting with high. Oh, damn it. Sorry. It like goes away. Stop posting with high rise and learn to low hand for strap outside fighting. Damn it. Okay. Let me finish with what I'm on, and then I'll go on low hand top rolling and the do's and don'ts and why it's amazing in the strap. And yeah. So the inflammation, guys, it's not that people don't, the top guys don't have it. It's that they're so built and everything's so built that we don't have enough pressure to apply that, right? Because I'm at a point now where I can have a practice with a lot of my guys that the newer guys on my team, and I could pull 5 days in a row because they're not strong enough yet to be able to inflame my elbow enough where it would tear me down or be at any significant level. So it's almost the same thing. Those guys that are stronger than me or a different level than me, same thing when they practice with me or other guys. There's not enough pressure there to make them die, right? And so there's not enough people on Earth to make Denis Soplenkov's elbow hurt. You know what I'm saying? And that. Let me close the door, man. He's weed whacking now. This shit's getting crazy. Hold on one second. All right. Sorry. So yeah, I mean, it's all about how built you are to handle that kind of pressure. Now, the first year we want to get the Arm Wrestling 101 done. We want to get those arms used to arm wrestling, and we want to have a nice general base of strength, right? So this is how I tend to coach my guys on the team after years of trial and error. On the arm wrestling team I'm on, this is kind of the way I've found best. I also believe in starting as a hook arm wrestler. I'll always promote to all my new guys, every new guy that walks up the street, I start them as hook arm wrestlers. I know they might grow into other things, and I know that there's other ways of arm wrestling, but in my experience, when you start someone as a hook arm wrestler instead of a top roller, there's a few things that happen right off the bat that are really big positives. One, when you start hook arm wrestling, hooking hurts more than top rolling. Right? Top rolling tends to go away from joint pressure and you run away from people's power. And so top rolling doesn't hurt as much at practice. But if the goal is to start conditioning your elbows right away and start getting your body used to arm wrestling and the pressures, then I'd rather go towards it. I'd rather go towards it and focus on rehab and healing up than running away from the pressure. It's just going to make the pain that happens from being a noob last even longer, in my opinion. You keep top rolling, then you'll be like, oh yeah, practice wasn't that bad. It's going to keep top rolling. At some point, you're going to have to hook, man. At some point, it's going to have to happen. So I'm a fan of starting people on a hook for that reason. I'm also a fan of starting people on a hook because, in general, when you start someone in arm wrestling as a top roller, and this has happened a bunch of times, it's not 100% accurate, but this happens. When you start top rolling, then you approach arm wrestling with a mindset of, oh man, I lost that match. I should have moved my finger. Oh man, I lost that match. I should have moved my hand 1 inch to the left, right? Because top rolling is a game of inches and micro adjustments and leverage. It's not a game as much of brute force and power, right? I know this. I top rolled for the first, 7 years of my career. So it's not a very productive mindset to lose a match or to have a match and only think I should have moved that finger. It's very much more productive to lose a match in a hook and think And since a hook incorporates so many more big muscle groups, when you generally lose a hook, you feel just weaker. The guy grabbed me by all my big muscle groups and threw me across the table. Okay, well, I need to go back to the gym and I need to get stronger. When you get beaten in a hook and you feel like you were just weaker, then it tends to promote strength training and strength gains over, oh, I should have moved my finger. You know what I'm saying? So in general, that's why I always promote my guys to start in a hook, right? We're gonna get that elbow conditioned ASAP, and we're gonna give you a basis of strength mindset over micro adjustments. Now, that doesn't mean that the micro adjustments aren't right. They are right. There's definitely a place for all that stuff. But at the highest end of the sport, the way up there, this is a strength sport. This is not a leverage micro adjustment sport. What's going to help you more in the end is being stronger rather than those micro adjustments. I'm not saying those aren't helpful, but the strength is way more important, especially later on in your career. You want to start having that mindset of, damn, that tournament didn't go well. I can't wait to hit the gym and get way stronger. Or I can't wait to go back to practice and start working way more on my hook and getting more powerful, right? It's a way better mindset, believe me. So we started everybody in a hook. Arm wrestling as much as you can, conditioning those arms and getting you acquainted with all the different arm wrestling 101 aspects of arm wrestling, right? So I've broken down, a lot of people break down arm wrestling into hook, press, and top roll, right? Those three moves. I see arm wrestling more as inside arm wrestling, outside arm wrestling. That's it. There's so many different variations now of inside arm wrestling, so shoulder forward, and there's so many variations of outside arm wrestling, shoulder backward, right? There's King's moves, there's low hand top rolls, high hand top rolls, there's like whole hand top rolls, and then there's when you go inside, there's presses, shoulder rolls, flop presses, drag hooks, European hooks, American hooks, high hooks. There's so many different ways of hooking. So that way I see it as inside and outside arm wrestling, right? Inside, you can go really inside the more you commit your shoulder, or you can go outside the more you pull your shoulder back, right? There's hooks there's people think hooking is only an inside style of arm wrestling. That's not true. There's hooking where your shoulder goes backwards and you pull back, which I would still consider an outside style of arm wrestling, right? So I almost consider a high hook an outside style of arm wrestling as well. I mean, because a lot of times you drop back your shoulder to control someone's hand. I don't know. So I still think it's an outside form of arm wrestling. Anyway, it's a different topic. So yeah, that first year, that first phase one, you're going to want to learn all that stuff. Now, once you finish phase one, you can know you're kind of getting out of that, and you kind of judge your own phases and where you're at in your career based off of, okay, I know how to do all these moves. I get why and where I would do them, in what situations and stuff. My elbows aren't hurting. I have a good general base of strength. I'm not generally a monster in any one area, but I kind of am well-rounded a little bit. Now, phase two. We're moving on to phase two. Phase two generally starts somewhere around a year and a half to, depending on this is how it usually works. It usually depends on your weight class a lot, right? Because as a super heavyweight, I don't have to worry about how heavy I get. I can get as fucking big as I want. I can eat as much as I want. But the guys in the lighter classes have to worry about that. So this is when we start talking about you coming into your own as an arm wrestler, fine-tuning your moves, and really getting acquainted with the gym. I would dial the table time down to once a week at this phase, a minimum of once a week to keep everything fine-tuned. But this is where you're going to just discover your own version of your hook, your strongest version of your press, your top roll, right? There's a big debate kind of amongst arm wrestling as far as, is it better to be proactive? Do you go to the table and say, I'm doing this style of hook? I don't care what the hell this guy does across the table from me. I'm going to go and do my style of hook. And he can make his fucking adjustments based off me, right? So no matter what this guy's going to do, I'm going to go hook, right? Some people think that way. Now, that's awesome, because when you think that way, that means you're being confident. That means you're being direct, and that usually has speed that's involved with that. And you don't have to worry about adjusting. When you made that decision in your soul that you're not adjusting for shit, then you're way faster, and you can apply more strength, I guess. And you can focus on just aggression, which is great. Your brain's kind of turned off. It's time to just be aggressive in my one move. And so I think that gives you a lot of edges in an arm wrestling match. But when you see these well-rounded arm wrestlers, John Brzenk, Devin Larratt, and you see these adjustments, right? You see the adjustments they're making. Chase, there's a saying that says chase doesn't make race. So if you're adjusting based off the other guy, then he's dictating the match. If he's dictating the match, then that means you're not in control and you're just trying to stop him wherever he goes. That sucks. But it would be nice though, wouldn't it, if you had the perfect counter? What's going on, Midhill? I didn't plan this live stream, bro. I really didn't plan it. I was like, you know what? I was talking to some people. I said, I'm just gonna go live. This is my first time ever going live, so I'll post this so you can go back and watch it if you want and watch the first half hour. But what was I talking about? I keep losing my train of thought. But basically, what were we talking about? Shit, where was I? I was talking about. Oh man, brain fart. Second phase. Adjusting. Thank you, Carlo. Okay, I was talking about adjusting. So there's a saying that says, "Chase don't make race," and you don't want to be catching up to the guy. You don't want the other guy to be dictating your arm wrestling match. But if you could adjust well enough to have an answer for everybody, like John Brzenk, right? If he knew what you're going to do, he could adjust and make the change and have the perfect answer for whatever you're going to do. Now that's awesome. If we all had that ability to do all the moves perfectly, like John could, which is why he's called the perfect storm, that's like optimal, right? Optimal to be able to have the perfect answer for everything. But it's hard to make that switch. Believe me, I've been trying. It's really hard to make that switch on the fly. So the rules I came up with for me, if I want to switch up my moves, right? 'Cause I've done tournaments where I was like, no matter what goes this tournament, I'm hooking. And I've done really well at those tournaments. I've won tournaments like that. But I think the final adjustment is to be able to make these changes relatively quick, like in between matches, right before matches. So my rule is I never change my mind once I get to the table, right? So if I know, hopefully I've scouted out my competition for the event or before the event, and I know my plan for each person, and so I've come to a resolution in my head that I'm doing this with this person, right? And this is the answer. I found that every time I go up there and I start trying to adjust in the moment, then I start overthinking and I don't apply as much force. Now, this could just be a Derek thing for sure. Some people might be way more awesome than me. I get it. But in my experiences, this is the best way for me to do it, is that I won't adjust at the table as much. I mean, if it's blatant, like if they do something really, really dumb, then of course. But I'm saying in general, I want to make them adjust to me, which is the whole mindset behind why Travis and Devin and all these guys say don't hold on, go. Always go. Don't hold on to anybody because you would be dictating the match. If I'm going and you're holding on to me, cool. Hold on for dear life. We're going on a ride, right? So you don't want to be that guy holding on all the time in that situation. So this topic gets kind of weird because John Brzenk will promote holding on. He promotes hand strength and gripping and crushing people's wrists. So you kind of got to find what argument you believe in most. Adjusting, not adjusting, going full bore, or trying to stop people. That's something you kind of have to figure out in your own style of arm wrestling and in your career. Not sure how I got on that tangent, but so phase 2, we're figuring out our moves, our version of each move, and how we want to arm wrestle. Then we're also going to be finding how to do applied force, different ways to apply force on an arm wrestling table, right? So this is something else I wanted to go into at some point. Maybe I'll do a whole different live stream. Is that arm wrestling, the way you can apply force on an arm wrestling table is broken down into subcategories. This is my own argument, my own thing I've came up in my head with, and I still have to fine tune it. But so you're thinking, how can I apply force on a table? Is it speed? Okay, that's one, right? The faster I am, the more force I can apply on a table. Technical knowledge? Cool. More answers I know from me training, the more force I can apply. Is it having more muscle fibers? Okay, that's cool. So lifting weights and weight training. Connective tissue, right? So tendons, ligaments. That's one. We could even throw, I almost want to separate connective tissue and joints, right? Structure. How well has your structure been changed for arm wrestling? Then you can talk about muscle synergy. That's one I like to use, like connectivity between your body. You might be able to incorporate that with joints. Like I said, this idea is not super ironed out yet. I have some more ways to break up the categories in my head. But these are all things that you think about when figuring out how to be strong on an arm wrestling table. Now, it's important that you differentiate these things, that there's different ways to apply strength on an arm wrestling table, because if you're a light arm wrestler, you can't just focus on getting huge muscles, because then you won't be light anymore. You'll get heavy, right? So for lighter arm wrestlers, this phase 2 of your career can kind of last for a long time, for years. It can last for anywhere from 2 to 5, 6, 7 years, and staying within that class. Now, I think that once you stop worrying about weight, you can kind of go into phase 3, the final phase of arm wrestling. But I think in this phase 2, lighter guys tend to stay here a lot. A lot of super heavyweights will almost jump over phase 2 and go straight to phase 3 because they don't have to worry about that, and they can just focus on getting muscles as huge as possible and then just using that. But when thinking about how to get stronger in arm wrestling, especially when in relations to staying within a weight class, always think about these categories, guys. Okay, how do I get stronger on a table? Well, let's just not worry about muscles for right now. Okay, how are you going to condition your joints? Have you been putting in sufficient joint work? Have you been rehabbing and getting blood movement to all your connective tissue? How's your speed training? Has that gone anywhere? How's your, how well are you using your leverage? These are all things that you've got to consider when how to apply more force on a table. How well are you using all your muscles at once? When you arm wrestle, are you using your traps? So these are all things that you need to consider when thinking about applied force on an arm wrestling table, right? But that's a whole separate thing I want to get into at some point. So phase 2, that's it. And then as far as the gym goes, like I said, phase 2, you should be arm wrestling once a week and gymming throughout the week. This is optimally. I'm sure, it's hard to have the perfect world and no one has it. But optimally, you would be now focusing more on a lot of your arm wrestling movements. Still doing rehab throughout the week because your table time should be tearing you down somewhat, but you'll start tailoring a lot of your lifts. You'll start lowering a lot of your. Sorry, I'm getting text messages as well. I'm reading those. Your lifts down from. Damn it! Every time someone messages me, it changes my train of thought. Okay, so the lifts, we'll start going more towards arm wrestling specific lifting during phase 2, right? So we're going to be talking about going heavier on your pronation and the 6 or 7 different lifts within your forearms, and then also starting to focus up more on the arm wrestling specific muscles in there, right? So focusing more on your bicep and whatever, your brachialis and your delts and things like that. Now that we're getting more into the gym talking and how to start training heavy, this concept, the way I see arm wrestling, carries over from phase 2 to the final phase 3. I am a believer, as far as the ways I've been looking at arm wrestling and people I've been talking to and people have been helping me out, is that I like to think of training arm wrestling in as far as isolation goes, right? So when I'm thinking about how to train for arm wrestling in the gym, we're talking about just gym work at this point, not talking about table time. I like to approach each lift thinking about what muscle group I'm working. So the hook, right? The hook that we use is, what does a hook use? I'll break down each movement in my head and be like, okay, a hook is chest, right? Because a chest, my hook. We're talking about my hook, right? Everybody should be focusing on their own move. But as phase 2, like I said, we're becoming our own style of arm wrestling. We're becoming our own version, the final versions of ourselves as far as an arm wrestler. So my hook would use more chest, which is elbow sliding. Would use a lot of front delt because I like to rise up. Would use a lot of supination and bicep, right? So I'll break down my hook and exactly what muscles I'm using in my hook. And so now I have the list. I have the shopping list. These are the muscles I'm using for my hook. Okay. Now I can take this shopping list over to the gym. So then, and this is kind of really similar to the way that Ingen promotes training, is that he goes muscle by muscle and he breaks it down. Take those specific muscle groups to the gym, and as far as isolation goes, it's really similar to bodybuilding, right? I look at bodybuilding lifts a lot of the time, and how do they attack their bicep and their different bicep heads, long head, short head, and how do they isolate it? Because that's awesome. But instead of going for a sick pump at the gym, then I go for strength. So then my reps and sets are lower, right? way heavier. So I isolate like a bodybuilder, but the reps and sets are closer to like a power lifter, someone that's more strength minded. So everything for me is around 6 reps is the goal. What's up, Ricardo? Thanks for tuning in, man. Everything for me is around 6 reps is the goal. On the 7th rep, I should be failing. But I don't go to failure. A lot of people have arguments about that. Some people believe in going to failure. My current philosophy, and the thing I've been seeing a ton of gains with, is not going to failure, right? And I also don't do negatives. Ingham believes in negatives, but Todd Hutchings kind of promoted not doing negatives, and it kind of made some sense to me. So I kind of stay away from negatives. But I'll do static holds, I'll do full range movements, and I'll do partials. But I don't do a lot of negatives right now. But yeah, so I always aim for around 6 reps. On the 7th rep, I would fail. That's the goal. Now, if I grab a weight, and always record everything, write everything down. If I grab a weight and I'm like, oh man, I can do 10 of these, then we've already started the workout, the lift, and I'll do the 10, and hopefully on the 11th, I would have failed, right? And so I'll stop right before failure. And I do, for each muscle group, I do I aim for 5 different exercises for each muscle. So when I do bicep day, since it's mostly lightweight, is it good to work fingers, cupping, and pronation every day? No. See, that's what I did for it. This is all my opinion, right? In my experiences, I used to. For the first 6 years, I did all the arm wrestling movements every day. I would go to a gym. I would not write anything down. I would do a really sloppy workout. Today I'm going to do some bench press. I would go do my bench press, maybe some flies, not write anything down, not lift that heavy, and then I would end the workout by doing all of the arm wrestling lifts. I would do cupping, pronation, supination, rising, sinking, extension, and all of them, right? I would do 3 sets of something stupid, 20, right? The weight wasn't super heavy enough. But because I was always told that your forearms and your hand are very similar to your calves and your abs, as in you could do them every day, right? That your hands and the human body is built around utilizing your hands every day so that it heals faster, right? That's what I was told. And I have to be honest, I'm known for having a strong hand and wrist with this philosophy. But I've never seen the gains I've seen since I stopped doing that. I go to grip tournaments as well, some of you guys know, and I've talked to some of the top grip guys, and I asked them about how they train their grip, and they do hand grippers once a week. That's it. So I adopted Ingham's philosophy, and same thing. I treat my arm wrestling lifts, my forearms, the same way as I treat all other muscle groups, once a week. Cupping, once a week. Pronation, once a week. Super heavy. 5 different exercises, 2 sets, right below failure. So crazy heavy, 85, 90%. And so by the time you're done, by the time I leave the gym, I'm not feeling pumped. I don't have a sick pump like you would if you're going for bodybuilding exercises. But I feel like my body's been worked. I have a deep sense of, wow, that muscle was utilized, heavy. And so it almost feels like you start a new job and you use a new body part or a new muscle that you've never used before. It almost feels like that when I leave the gym. So not sick pump, you just know that you're going to be sore as shit. So it's been awesome. And I've seen huge gains since I started training this way. But okay, so trying to stay on track with the phase 2, phase 3 thing. This is the way I started focusing on training. And once you go from phase 2 to phase 3, you have your moves set in. You feel like you kind of have you have not a rough anymore. You have a dialed in layout of you as an arm wrestler. Your knowledge is pretty sharp of the table, and you're ready to just start focusing on horsepower. Once you feel you can make the transition to just horsepower, you got everything else dialed in, and it's time just to get big or get strong or whatever stronger. Then you go to phase 3. Like I said, for lightweight guys, this phase 2 you can be there for a long time. And it's not that it's bad. It's just that's what you need to focus on. And then because Jamie Sheldon, for instance, he arm wrestles at 175. He can't focus on just packing on a ton of muscle. He has to get faster. He has to get his connective tissue stronger. He has to focus on the other things so he can stay at 175, but continue to get stronger, right? So it's a different thing. But yeah, once you go to phase 3, phase 3 is basically what I'm trying to do right now, which is table time every other week. The table time is used for, and this is an Ingham philosophy, the table time is used for muscle synergy. So basically, I spend 2 weeks lifting weights every day, taking a week off for each muscle group and letting it rest to play and hook or up or down strap position against top roller. Oh man, to well, I'll get to strap. I'm gonna get to strap work in a little bit. Someone else just asked, or Wes asked about that in a little bit, and I'll get to that. I promise. I'm almost done with this whole phase thing. So now I focus on, basically, I spend the weeks getting full gym sessions in. Now, since I'm arm wrestling every other week, my arms aren't tore up like at all, right? Because even right now, I've been arm wrestling about 10 years. I can do a nice arm wrestling practice, and I'm sore for about a day and a half, 2 days, normally, right? This coronavirus thing kind of messed some stuff up because I wasn't getting any table time, but generally, I'll be sore for like a day and a half, 2 days, and then I'm good, right? Depending on the level of the practice and how crazy it was and who showed up. But so now I practice, do rehab for a day or so, and now I have 2 weeks to lift weights before I start really applying myself on the table again. Now these 2 weeks are to build the muscle and build the strength. For me, super heavy weights, I can get as big and as I want and as heavy as I want. So it's just acquire all these muscles through isolation, the way I was telling you guys. So bicep time, get my bicep as strong as I can, and then in 2 weeks I go to practice. Now my goal at practice is just to put these muscles that I've been spending 2 weeks building, putting them all together and getting them working well together. So I have a teammate named Carlo who's somewhere in here, and what we do right now is he'll use 2 hands with me, and we'll walk through my movements with about 85% resistance. So I'm trying really, really hard, but I'm not failing in any aspect of the movement, right? So my practice, when I'm really getting my table time in, Carlo will be using 2 hands, and I'll go through my movement. First part of my hook maybe will be to slam forward and up, and he'll resist that. He'll resist every muscle I just used to do that. And then I'll stop that, and I'll finish the hook the way I like to finish it. And then he'll switch up his grip and resist, keeping me at 85, 90%. So I'm trying really hard. But if at any time in my movement, anything breaks down, because there's 2 types of failure, right? There's muscle failure and there's technical failure, right? So if at any point my elbow slides out during the movement and I start using, too much shoulder or something like that, then the rep is done. I'm now failing. He gave me too much resistance, or I was too weak, or whatever it was, and it's no good, right? So we need to lighten it up. So we keep a really close eye. A lot of times I'll have somebody else stand next to the table and watch me and tell me if anything I'm breaking form at all. So I'll go through these motions. We'll do 2 to 3 sets, just like at the gym, of me syncing together all the muscles I've been building at the gym, right? So I go to the gym for 2 weeks, I build all these muscles, I put them all together at practice, right? Go to the gym, 2 weeks, build the muscles, put them together at practice, so they work well together, right? So it's basically like, I spend all this time buying awesome parts for my car, and then every 2 weeks I put them all in the car and I take the car for a test run, right? And then the next couple weeks, buying new parts, put them together, take it for a test run until the car's ready to go, right? It's kind of like that idea. So yeah, we'll go through all the movements. We'll go through my inside movements. We'll go through my outside movements. We'll do it in the straps, outside the straps and stuff like that. Him using 2 hands and just keeping me at a really high level. I'm dead. By the time I'm done doing these workouts with Carlo at practice, I'm like spent. And then I'll help the guys after that. I'll hold people and let them work and let them pin me. But in general, I'm not losing at practice now. When I go to practice, it's about being successful, going through the motions, not getting tore up, not getting used to being ripped open. Now, phase 1, when you're arm wrestling, I mean, there's so much you need to learn about positioning and being in a losing position, how to transition from there, how to stay tight and all this stuff that I don't really critique my guys when they're new on how to pull the table at practice, as long as they're being safe. Kind of just feel it out, man. You guys spend a year or so just arm wrestling. But where I'm at now, I've done that. I've been pinned a million bajillion times. I'm trying to get the motions I want to be powerful in dialed in my brain, right? So that's what I focus on now at this phase of my career, in this phase of my life. This is what I need to focus on. But that's not me. That doesn't mean that's what everybody needs to focus on, right? It's all, you got to get dialed in. So for now, yeah, I just focus on my motions, getting them as powerful and strong as I can. And then the rest of the time's all spent in the gym, eating, trying to be an athlete, which I'm failing at a lot of times, but trying to eat right. I got a meal prep sponsor, trying to stay hydrated, trying to stay on top of everything, so that way I can just get stronger and stronger and stronger and more powerful in my moves and rested. And then by the time I go to an event, everything's dialed in. Got all the horsepower been building up, everything's cohesive and been used at practice, and I know how to apply all these muscles on a table, and then I go to the tournament and hopefully put it all together, right? So this stuff takes time, but since I've been doing this for the short time, all things considered, the short time I've been training like this, I feel like I've made huge gains, huge strides in my career, and I'm a big believer in all this stuff, right? So when you guys are trying to figure out where you're at in your career, and when someone says something and gives you guys some kind of advice, kind of hopefully consider what I'm talking about here, where you're at in your career and the advice they're giving you and where they're at in their career, right? And it doesn't mean that they're wrong. They just aren't, a lot of times they're not taking into consideration that you're a new guy, right? And that you shouldn't really be focusing on that stuff right now. But and everybody starts at different times and positions, guys. There's a guy in here named Mike who started at a super high level strength wise. Crazy. Came in off the streets. Dude just has a ton of horsepower, a ton of muscles, right? And so now our goal with him is to teach him how to not break his fucking arm in half, how to stay safe, how to apply the muscles he does have, and start formatting his joints so they can really utilize all those big muscles that he has. So you got it's a individual basis, right, where you're at in those phases and what you need to focus on. But yeah, okay. So there's the phase thing kind of laid out for you guys. Now I had some questions about strap pulling. If you guys have any questions, start shooting them at me now, and I'll start hopping around on topics a little bit. As far as strap pulling, Wes Bjornsson was asking about low hand strap pulling, I believe, and how and why it's awesome. I believe strictly that, and this is all just me, this is just my opinion, I believe that strap pulling amplifies outside arm wrestling more than it amplifies inside arm wrestling. I feel that a strap will, we'll say that a strap will make you apply 30% more power as an inside puller. I think it makes you apply 50% more power as an outside puller. Just based off of, one, I think what are the best exercises to improve forearm strength for a beginner? Forearms take a long time. This is one thing I've noticed. No one's made substantial forearm gains quickly. So the best exercises, just cupping, wrist curling. That stuff works fine. It's just being consistent with it and starting low and working your way heavier and heavier and not hurting yourself. That's the best way to work your forearm exercises. So you could just be a barbell, man, like a bench bar. Let it roll down to the tips of your fingers, and then roll it up and cup it, and roll down to your fingertips and roll it up and cup it. You can just do that, and that's fine. You don't need any special equipment. Okay, so back to the strap. I feel that when you're using strap arm wrestling and you're posting, you're low hand top rolling. Do I need to go grab a strap? I think I got a strap. Hold on, one sec. Sorry guys, I had to go grab a strap. Alright. By the way, these straps are provided by Lion Straps. Go hit up Lion Straps on Facebook and get yourself a strap. So you have a strap like this, right? Then this is connected to, say we're posting, say we're outside arm wrestling. This is connected to this is more of a brachialis type move rather than biceps, right? Biceps are supinated, and when you contract, that's how you kind of isolate a bicep. Context of posting top roll. What a posting top roll is? Posting top roll, well, your ability to post is just basically think hammer curl. That's your ability to post. Posting is just, to me, bringing this point of your wrist right here and just how hard you can bring this part back. Now, where your hand is positioned or your wrist while you're doing it, you still post with your wrist dumped, or you can post with your hand high, right? Oh crap! Sorry, I can't. Sorry. Don't forget. Don't forget the wrist body pronation. What do you think about not being 100% pronated at the start? Say 85% pronated and using the 15% to break their hand while also being body pronating. Okay, I'm gonna get there. Let me finish this thought with the strap and the low hand strap, low hand top rolling. So this is connected to your brachialis. This low one. This is the horsepower strap, guys. Fun fact about arm wrestling: this bottom strap is the horsepower strap to me, and this top strap is the hand control strap. Right? You have to worry about where these straps are located at all times, depending on your move and what you're trying to do to this person. This is the one that's going to apply power, though. That's why I've asked a bunch of people. I've asked Devin, I've asked John, I've asked a bunch of people about the benefits of having this strap high. And nobody can give me a solid benefit. Some people say they just prefer it, but they can't explain it. But it only makes sense to have it low. The lower this strap is down your arm, the closer it is to the base of your arm, so you can apply more power in it. So it makes no sense to have it high when thinking about horsepower, okay? Or when thinking about like dragging horsepower. But yeah, the reason I think that this strap in low handing is a big benefit is that because you're going to be using your brachialis and your brachioradialis right here, right? I feel like it taps more into big muscle groups when posting than it does when concerned about having a higher knuckle. When you have a higher hand right here, I'm not putting as much pressure on these straps as I am about concerned about keeping my knuckles high. I think when you're arm wrestling a strap, I'm a big believer in this, is that all you need to have as far as height is concerned is higher than him, right? Is that you don't have to have a super high knuckle. You just have to have a higher knuckle than him. So if we're arm wrestling the strap, I don't know if I can do this, my knuckle needs to be higher than his knuckle. It doesn't need to be straight up. It just has to be higher than his. Because once what happens is if he posts backwards and I post backwards, whoever's knuckle is just a little bit higher, 1 inch higher, I will go over the top of him and I'll roll his hand over, right? As long as our strengths are comparable, right? So I think as far as low hand top rolling, it allows you to get into the strap more, right? When you're low handing like this, I'm putting pressure into this strap way more, and I'm pulling this bottom strap, the horsepower strap, back as hard as possible. And then I'm just focusing on keeping this part of my knuckle a little bit higher than theirs. That's it. And then as we pull back, I'll naturally go over the top of their hand in the strap, right? If you're committed to outside low posting, low hand posting style of top rolling, which I think that is the ultimate style of strap pulling. That's why Matt Mask, Hermes Gasparini, a lot of top guys you see pulling straps, generally almost the strap pulling looks very similar. Unless they're, King's Moving or something like that. But in general, a lot of the guys that are known for being amazing strap pullers, you see that wrist go dump, and they just know to put all the horsepower in this bottom strap right here, just yank that fucking thing back as hard as they can, while keeping this just high enough. But you don't have to emphasize super high. It doesn't really do much in the straps, right? As far as because you can't get outside their hand, just higher than them. Okay, so a couple other questions people had. Let me see here. Ricardo said to play in hook up or down strap position against a top roller. In the strap against a top roller, so say you're trying to hook someone, then you want to focus on getting deep into their hand. So if you're top rolling and I'm trying to hook you and we're setting up the strap, my hand will be driving towards you the entire time we're setting up, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get my hand deeper into your hand so I can get a better, I can contain better with my wrist, right? I get more flexion on the back of your hand. So as we're setting up, I'm trying to close this gap here so I can get my wrist further around. So keep pushing past their hand in the setup, right? Focus on that if you're trying to hook a top roller in the strap. Focus on pushing past. Yeah, that's number one. That's the biggest thing for strap arm wrestling against a top roller, is to push past so they can't go back far enough to get into your hand at all and roll your wrist out. Oh, sorry. Okay, so after that was, don't forget the wrist body pronation. Okay, so the difference between, this is kind of a new, to me, thing that I've been focusing on, and me and my buddy Gage, my training partner, Gage Jordan, we've been kind of messing with this, and Ingen Terzi was telling me something for a while, and this happens all the time in arm wrestling in my career. I'll hear something from Devin or Ingen or something, and I'll be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then about 2 years later, I'll reread it, and I'll be like, oh, I get what he meant. Okay, so that still happens to me from time to time. Ingen kept telling me when he was watching my videos and he was helping coach me, he kept saying that I was pronating with my body and my frame, and I wasn't pronating with my hand. And I was like, I don't get it, because pronation, you turn, right? That's what you do. And then the more I started looking into it, the more I started watching more videos and talking to Ingen, I finally started clicking, right? And it's so sad. I'm so sad that I haven't known all this stuff forever, really been applying it. Basically, especially Americans, I find, pronate with their frame. and it's really prevalent in like a king's move, right? So I can right now, most of you guys, if I told you guys and you had you had something in your hand that was really resisting your pronation, right? You had something over your thumb and you're really trying to pronate, and I said pronate that thing. What you would do is you would flare your elbow out and turn that thing once it gets difficult. But really, you only pronated from palm up to thumb up, right? That's all we ever train. That's all, mostly all the Americans especially, only train. When they train pronation, they train this down to a weight, and they go 1, 2, 3. That's it. That's pronation work. That's all I did. And then I was watching some of Ingen's videos, and Ingen has this weird handle, right? And he'll grab the handle, and he just turns it, but from thumb up to thumb sideways. How much have any of y'all trained from thumb up to thumb sideways? Probably minimal, if I'm guessing. Every lift you ever see, every top American arm wrestler is training from palm up to thumb up, right? No one focuses on the other side of pronation, really focuses on it, because the weight drop off is insane. Every time I ever tried to focus on doing full pronation, my elbow would flare out, and really what I'm doing is I'm keeping my wrist perfectly still, and I'm rotating with my frame. I'm rotating my arm, and so that way my wrist moves with it. But I'm not actually using any flexion to pronate my hand, right? So that's the difference. Pronating in the hand would be with everything sitting still, pronation, and then pronating in the frame would be dropping my shoulder and having my arm pronate with it. So I didn't actually flex anything, right? That's the difference between actively pronating in the hand and pronating with your frame. So King's move, right? They get down there and they say go, and they drop everything, and they are pronating their entire frame. Their pronation is coming from right here, right? So they're twisting their whole arm to pronate. But then you see some like badass matches from like Denis Saplenkov or you know, other people, and like Europeans, they'll be like go, and they'll just pin people like that. That's pronating in the hand, and that's something I'm so weak at it, guys. It's horrible. I just started this a couple weeks ago. I don't even know what this is going to provide for me as far as an arm wrestler, you know, like what I can do on the table once I get this to a strong level. I'm just mad that I spent 10 years not training it like sufficiently. So we went the other day and we really found ways to focus on and how to target it. And basically you have to have like the tension needs to be up, and you need to be forcing down, and you have to make sure your elbow doesn't move. So it's really light, guys. It's going to be like 1/10 of the weight. If you've been arm wrestling for a long time, it's going to be like 1/10 of the weight you can do like this. The other side of the mountain, down the backside. It's pitiful. But I'm really intrigued to see what I can do with that. I think that arm wrestling is a static motion for the most part, right? So when you do arm wrestling, it's ready, go. You clamp everything down and you just lean to the side, right? That's how we train arm wrestling. That's what makes sense. But what Ingen was showing me, because Ingen's smarter than me about arm wrestling, he said that it's not all static. He said that at the time where it is flexion and it is like dynamic movement, it's at the very beginning. Go, boom, flexion. Go, boom, pronation. Right? So at the very beginning of the match, when dealing with the hand, that's the time in an arm wrestling match where there's a substantial amount of dynamic movement and flexion and twisting going on, right? You're actually moving a lot in the hand to get hand control. But the rest of everything is holding and dropping, right? The rest of it's pretty static, right? There's some contracting going on there, but it's not a ton. That's not the big player, right? That's not the biggest thing. But at the very beginning, it is the fight for hand control is flexion. So he believes a lot of wrist work and pronation work should be done through flexion and active dynamic movement, right? Makes sense, right? That's when you do flex your forearm is at the beginning. I started training this, and I'm really excited to see where this rotation, this pronation stuff goes. Now, the question you asked also was, what do I think about beginning pronated? So you're talking about a Travis Bagent style of arm wrestling. Now, what Travis does, and some other arm wrestlers do this, is they pronate their hand all the way, right? You walk up, before you even get to the arm wrestling table, pronate your hand as far as it can go. All right, I can't turn it any more than that. Now, keep it pronated, and slide your elbow across your arm. Now, my hand is flat. I could get a grip like this because I'm pronated. I literally can't pronate anymore, and I can get a grip like this, and the ref, to the ref and the other competitor, I'm good. But really, I'm as pronated as I can possibly get. So what I would do is close my hand. They say go. I would focus on, all I have to focus on is contracting my brachialis a little bit, like rising up a little bit, and flexion in my wrist, like wrist curling, and then I'm already pronated, so I just wrist curl, pull up a little bit, and just drop my weight and so now it's going to make my pronation a static movement rather than a dynamic flexion movement. So I don't start this and then rotate them. I start rotated and I just drop, and they come with me. Right, so that's the whole premise behind that, is that you get to just make your pronation to a static movement rather than an actual dynamic movement, which makes sense, right? Just different ideas to look at arm wrestling. So do I think it's awesome? I think that Travis's style of arm wrestling is really dependent on a few things. I can't arm wrestle like Travis all the way because Travis gets a big deal for Travis's style of arm wrestling. Travis Bagent is getting his hand and his post up. I can't get my post up because my arm is so long. I have to start with my elbow somewhat at the back of the pad. If I don't want my elbow at the back of the pad, then I have to be willing to sacrifice my wrist down to get height to drive my arm forward. Now that's not a problem Travis has to deal with very often, right? I have to though. So that kind of takes away my ability to high knuckle post top roll, like really at a high level, because I can't do that. My arm's just too long. So yeah, so it depends on the person. I can't do that move as well as he can. But yeah, I understand it. It makes a lot of sense. It's crazy hard to hold on to when you static your pronation. That's hard to hold on to. So yeah, it's good. It's a good move. It's powerful. I mean, obviously Travis does it, and he's been historically super successful with it. So yeah, if you can do it and you can pull it off and you figure out the angles, great. It's fantastic. One thing I admire a lot about Travis, and like I said, I've been to his seminars and I've talked to him forever, is that he has his move, which he figured out on his own for the most part. He has his move dialed into the like millimeter, and exactly what parts of each of his move makes his move successful. So he has like one move. That's it. Didn't overcomplicate it. And so he focuses on, man, you guys, here come all the questions. All right, I'm gonna finish this thought. Is that I'm envious of Travis, the fact that he's broken down his move into like inch by inch gains, right? And he knows that he needs this knuckle to be high. He needs them, to chase him. He has it dialed in so well that imagine if you knew every inch of your move so dialed in that you didn't have to worry about anything. You just did that exact thing to the centimeter every time, and you knew it would work 1,000,000%. Kind of jealous of that. All right, so let's start getting more questions. Sorry. Hand size and arm wrestling. I don't think having a big hand is the end-all be-all, but there's no advantage that I know of to having a small hand, right? But you got this thing, right? If you have a small hand, guys, I always tell a lot of guys I know that train with small hands, one of two things. Either get really, really good at this, at using a strap because you can get to it whenever you want, or get really, really fast. One of the two. Either because don't put yourself in a style of arm wrestling where you're holding on to people. And if you're not holding on to people, you'll be in straps a lot. But if for some reason you do have a style of arm wrestling where you hold on to people, like a hook, then you better become really explosive to sinking in your hook before your hand becomes a big deal, right? So by the time they even try to get into your hand, you're already like this. Then your hand's not a big deal, right? But yeah, if you have any slow style of arm wrestling with a small hand, it's rough. It's rough at a high level. So what a lot of guys will do is at a lower level, I'll tell them this. I'll meet a guy day one, and I'll tell him, hey, dude, you got pretty small hands for arm wrestling. Like, just so you know, you might want to get good at the straps or like being really fast. But they'll be successful for a while at a low level, right? So they'll spend their first like 4 years, 5 years in amateurs and low-level pro tournaments doing well with a low hand. But eventually, they will be going against top guys, and their hand will get exploited because it's too small. And by then, it's too late. Now you've spent 5 years not becoming amazing in the straps and not becoming super fast and focus on your positioning, right? And then you're kind of screwed because now you spent so much time just curling everybody in slowly that you can't do that at a high level if you have a small hand, right? So if you have a big hand, whatever, there's no specific things I can think of to make you utilize it way better. It just gives you better coverage on the back of other people's hands. But yeah, for a small hand, you better get used to the straps and being fast. Okay, next question. Best supplements to gain power. You're going to want to hit up NatFit. That's my supplement guy from Jamie Sheldon. Best supplements to gain power, man. I mean, that's like, I don't know, protein. It's like I said earlier, there's so many ways of applied force on an arm wrestling table. If you're talking about just for muscle gains, I mean, protein, just eating, man. Eating, I just make sure every day I have a multivitamin. I take a powder form because I don't believe in horse pills. I think that your body can't digest them, so you shit them out before you can take in a horse pill, before you absorb it. So I do powders, always powder. Every morning I have a bottle of water, a little one, and I put a big scoop of Animal Flex in there, which is joint therapy stuff, and then Animal Pack, which is just multivitamins, and then I do a scoop of BCAAs, and then depending on the morning, sometimes I'll do like a quarter scoop of pre-workout to get me started. But yeah, that's what I do in the morning. So, and then protein-wise, I try to get my protein through meat and certain vegetables, like as natural as I can. But if not, then I supplement my meals with a protein shake, right? Just regular whey protein from NatFit. So there you go. That's the best I have, but I'm not the smartest guy when it comes to all that stuff. So definitely look around, man. ETN asks, would you rather have a super match with Mike Aiello or Lachlan Adair? Oh my gosh. I have a bone to pick with Mike Aiello because he's beaten me twice. But I can do it. I'm telling you guys, I can beat Mike. I got it. I hope Mike's listening to this. So I have something to prove there. Lachlan, I've never arm wrestled. But Lachlan is one of the top dogs out in Australia, and he looks really strong. I think he's like borderline not super heavyweight, though, because I think he pulled at 242s. So, Mike Aiello. Because also, I think that Mike Aiello is like the gatekeeper for super heavyweights in the United States. Like once you beat Mike, I think, in my opinion, once you beat Mike Aiello, now you're in the upper echelon. You have transitioned into top tier super heavyweight in North America. Once you beat Mike, I think that Mike's that guy. You beat Mike, and now you're one of the top dogs. Now you should have a match at WAL. Now you're one of the guys to be considered, in my opinion. Right? That's how I see Mike, and yeah, I had a ton of respect for Mike. He's an awesome dude, funny as shit. If you guys get a chance, go follow Mike on Instagram. He's hilarious. Okay, what was the other questions? From Top Dog, some people start the match loading while having a deep concave chest, shoulders. What is the benefit of this? Oh, that's what I just covered in the Travis Bajan thing. I think Mike crushed Lachlan, yeah, and Mega Mike is coming for you. Mega Mike better start eating his Wheaties. Stop trying to catch me when I'm sore. Yeah, guys, so I don't know. I think that's about it, unless you guys have any other questions. Yeah, maybe I'll do these lives a little more often. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I got 21 people watching this stuff. Yeah, it was fun. What do you of Devin's idea of just training one arm? Devin's idea of training one arm. I've never heard Devin say he just trains one arm. He does it, I think, because of injuries and stuff. That's why he's training one arm. He doesn't train one arm just for no reason. He's doing it, I think, because he has injuries and he's training around the injuries. Okay, cool. I'm glad all you guys enjoyed this. Yeah, man, I like answering these questions. I haven't watched any of Devin's latest videos. I'm not going to go into any more of that. It's just he's putting out a lot now, and he was putting out like every gym session, and so I was like, oh, I kind of stopped watching all. I was up to date on every single video he's ever put out, but in the last probably like 15 videos, I've probably seen like 5 of them. Oh, so he's doing it as far as energy. I can get that, I guess. I'm in quarantine and I'm single. Train one arm too. I understand that. So practice on Sunday. We're gonna have practice. Yeah, whatever. We're having practice, so maybe I'll go live and live stream the practice a little bit for you guys. It's just I know my channel's not very big, so I feel like I'm gonna go live and there's gonna be like 5 people watching, and yeah. Finish forearm flex. My forearms, I don't got big forearms, man. I'm 6'8". My arms are all spread out, so they're not very big. I mean, they're getting there though. Look at these things; they're starting to get there. All right, guys. Well, I will talk to you guys later. Check out my podcast every week, every Monday. I'm trying to upload that. You guys, I know they're long as shit. I know they're like an hour and something, but check them out. I appreciate all your guys' support. I think if more people knew in advance for this, you'd have more live views. massive. It's not massive, man. It's baby form. Have you seen Levon? All right, guys. I'll try to share this and build. Yeah, they do that countdown thing, right, to going live. Maybe I could do one of those. Like I said, this is my first time ever going live on my YouTube channel. So, thanks, guys. I appreciate all the support. I mean, it's fun. I really just like teaching people about arm wrestling. I have like a deep belief in that it's all of our duties to grow the sport. That like no one else is going to do it. So the arm wrestlers are the ones that have to put it out there and teach people and push the sport and grow it. Because we can't expect some millionaire guy who doesn't give a shit about our sport to help grow this sport, right? Why would he care? He doesn't love arm wrestling. So yeah, I don't know. I just if you guys anybody ever asks you, send them to me and I'll answer every question they can ever ask for free. All right, guys. Talk to you later. Peace.